All right, welcome to our lesson on cross-simplifying with multiplying. I know we talked about it a little bit during class, so we kind of got a preview of it, and now you're kind of going through the full lesson, so you can kind of see it a little bit more. Find this page in your note packet. It says use cross-simplifying to multiply fractions, and we're going to kind of fill this in as we go through the problems. All right, so the whole idea behind cross-simplifying is it saves you some time by helping you do some simplifying early when the numbers are small, instead of trying to simplify when the numbers are bigger at the end of the problem. So in the box there in your notes, here's what I want you to fill in. When you're simplifying, look for a common factor that you can use to divide both numerator and denominator. So if you remember from what we talked about, it's not just looking at one fraction, it's looking at the whole problem. Look at one numerator, one denominator. Can you find anything that they have in common? Okay, so get that filled in, and then we're going to try this first one. And I kind of talked about how, think of it as one giant fraction. Think about the numerator and the denominators. Okay, sometimes you can look up and down. Oftentimes look diagonally. That's often where you're going to find things you can cross simplify. So you always ask yourself, is there a numerator and a denominator that I can divide by the same thing? So for instance, 2 and 8. 2 and 8 can both be divided by 2. So I write that in next to it. Okay, I got to show that work. What did I divide by? And then I go ahead and do my dividing. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So I've simplified that piece. Now I'm going to look at my 3 and my 6. What can both 3 and 6 be divided by? Well, they can both be divided by 3. Remember, a number can always be divided by itself. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Now, you can go ahead and do your multiplying, or you can keep looking for some more that you could simplify. So for instance, notice that we now have a 2 and a 4. Well, 2 and 4 could both be divided by 2. So I can actually do more simplifying. You're not always going to be done after just one round. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And then I kind of like to rewrite what I have left in the problem. So I have a 1 and a 1. And then I have a 1 and a 2. When you get down to just ones, that's often a good sign that you're done with the problem, because you can't simplify anything more than a 1. Once we get all the way down, now we multiply. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. Our simplified answer is 1/2. Now, I know that looks ugly and kind of confusing at first, but the more you do it and the more you practice it, you eventually get to where you're so fast you can knock that out in 10 seconds and get right to that answer instead of having to worry about simplifying later. All right, so now we're looking at this next one. Again, think of it as one big numerator, one big denominator. Try to look for something that can both be simplified by the same thing, can be divided by the same thing. So a lot of times I always check my diagonals first. That's where I tend to find it more often than not. 5 and 15 can each be divided by 5. So I show that work. Yeah, you got to write that in there every time. And then show me what you got after you divided. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 5 divided by 5 is 1. Now I'm going to check the other direction. 4 and 24. Well, 4 and 24 can each be divided by 4. Oh, by 4 and by 4. 24 divided by 4 is 6. 4 divided by 4 is 1. So it's really like simplifying a fraction. You just are mixing and matching which fraction you're pulling numbers from. But the rule is you're always doing something to the numerator and a denominator. So my 1s, that's as far as I can go. But now I look at my 3 and my 6. 3 and 6 can both be simplified more. They can each be divided by 3. But maybe that problem is kind of getting kind of complicated and hard to see. So don't be afraid to rewrite a clean version of the problem before you go and do some more dividing. So now I can see 3 and 6. They can each be divided by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Now I'm ready to go ahead and multiply. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. I got 1/2 as my answer again. So again, remember, it's still ultimately a multiplication problem. So we're going to multiply numerators, multiply denominators. But the idea is that if we can do it with smaller numbers, it makes life much easier. 5 times 24 is going to give me a number up in the hundreds. Okay? 4 times 15 is going to give me 60. Those are big numbers and often more complicated when it comes to simplifying. All right, so let's try this one. Again, focus on one numerator and one denominator. What could I divide out of both of those? Well, maybe you saw 9 and 18. 9 and 18 can each be divided by 9. 9 divided by 9 is 1. 18 divided by 9 is 2. Now I check this way. 10 and 15. Well, 10 and 15 can each be divided by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 15 divided by 5 is 3. Now, here is where we have to be careful, because now we can go back and look for more to simplify. But remember the rules. It's always one numerator, one denominator. So some of you are going to be tempted to go, oh, 2 and 2, they can each be divided by 2. I like the idea, but we can't because they're both in the denominator. Remember, these are still fractions. We have to treat numerator and denominator the same. So unless I can divide something up here by 2, I can't divide something down here by 2. All right, now I go ahead and multiply. 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 2 is 4. And then a good check is always look at your answer at the end. Could I simplify again? Sometimes we just miss doing some simplifying in the problem. We can always catch it again at the end. In this case, 3 and 4, that's in simplest form. So our answer is 3/4. All right. I want you to pause. I want you to give these a try for a couple minutes, then hit play again, and then kind of go over the problems with me. Give it a try. Start the process. It's okay to make some mistakes, but at least that way you're trying, and then you can kind of check and correct with me and kind of see where you're getting tripped up. Did you pause? Did you try them for yourself? All right, now let's try them together. Again, look to see what could I cross simplify. And there are going to be some problems where you can't find anything to cross simplify, and that's okay. So don't feel like it has to find something to divide. You just look to see what can be divided. So in this one, we do have some. 4 and 4 could each be divided by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1 and 1. Then I look this way, 3 and 9. Well, 3 and 9 can each be divided by 3. All right, remember our lesson on greatest common factor. We're looking for factors that they have in common, numbers that they both can be divided by. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. I always like to write my new numbers kind of off from those numbers, just so I can clearly see what's left over. 1 times 1 is 1. Whenever I get to all ones in either the numerator or denominator, I kind of know I've gone as far as I can go, because I can't divide a 1 into something smaller. 1 times 3 is 3, and I get an answer of 1/3. All right, next one. 5 6 times 9 tenths. Hopefully you're starting to get the feel for this and you're starting to kind of notice what you want to look for. If not, that's okay. That's why we're going to keep practicing. 6 and 9 can each be divided by 3. Okay? Maybe you did the 5 and the 10 version. That's totally okay. It doesn't matter the order you did it in. It doesn't even matter what you choose to divide them by. We'll all get to the same answer, even if we took a different route to get there. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 5 and 10 can each be divided by 5. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So you'll notice here I divided by one of my numbers. That's a very common thing to happen. But if you notice the 6 and 9, I didn't divide by a 6 or a 9. I found something they both could be divided by, which was a 3. Now I go ahead and multiply. 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 2 is 4. All right, and then the bottom one. Hopefully you remembered our lesson from earlier this week. When you have a whole number, you can write it over 1. So I have 3/5 times 10 over 1. Now I look to cross simplify. 5 and 10 Well, those can each be divided by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. Now I look at 3 and 1. Well, I can't simplify a 1 any farther. So in this case, there's nothing I can cross simplify, and that's okay. So now I go ahead and I multiply. 3 times 2 is 6. 1 times 1 is 1. And then I always look to see if I can simplify. Well, 1 goes into 6. 6 times 6 over 1 is really just 6. All right, so let's see if we could really tackle something this big now. We saw these yesterday in class. We talked about why it's important to cross simplify. Now let's see if we can actually tackle it. So try these on your own if you think you're up for it. If not, kind of go through it with me real quick. I'm going to move pretty fast, okay? But don't feel like you need to be able to move at that same speed. I've just had a lot more practice with these than you have. So 12 and 36 can each be divided by 12. So I get a 3 and a 1. 20 and 15 can each be divided by 5. So I get a 4 and a 3. Okay, maybe you stopped there and thought you were done. So you did 1 times 3 is 3. 4 times 3 is 12. But that's why we always go back at the end of the problem. Could I simplify a little bit more? Well, 3 and 12 could each be divided by 3. So I get 1 over 4. So maybe you saw that 3 and 3 could have been divided out in the problem. That's okay. But sometimes we're going to miss those little things, so we can always catch it by simplifying our final answer when necessary. All right, last one. This one's a big one, and this one's a little tough. 49 and 35 can actually each be divided by 7. They're both multiples of 7. 24 and 60 can each be divided by quite a few things. So maybe I thought it could be divided by 6. Okay. 60 divided by 6 is 10. 24 divided by 6 is 4. Well, whoop, sorry about that. So maybe now I go, ooh, 4 and 10, those could be divided again. Well, that's okay. Sometimes you're going to do it more than one time until you get everything out of the problem that you can. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So it's getting kind of ugly here. So I have a 2 and a 7, a 5, and a 5. So now I check, can I divide any more? Well, 5 and 5 can each be divided by 5. Okay? And I'm not expecting you to be an expert and be able to be perfectly comfortable with these big problems like that. This will be something we work up to, but I wanted you to kind of see it in action on a bigger problem. 2 times 1 is 2. 7 times 1 is 7. And I get an answer of 2 7s. That's cross-simplifying in action.